Hello everyone and welcome to RadChat, a multi-award-winning first therapeutic radiographer-led oncology podcast. My name is Norman Jorgensen and I'm joined by fellow host Joe McNamara.
Hi everyone!
So we're at UKIO conference in Liverpool and we've got another fantastic guest for you. Do you want to introduce yourself please?
Hi, I'm Dr. Carolyn Costigan and I'm a research radiographer and postdoctoral fellow in Nottingham University Hospitals and the University of Nottingham.
So, a really long, intelligent sounding title. What is it that you do?
So I'm an MRI radiographer by background. I finished my PhD a week before lockdown, which was pretty tight timing. And I never knew what I wanted to do after my PhD. I was still working as a research radiographer, did the PhD part-time. And as I was finishing up, this job opportunity came up in the Trust as a clinical academic lead. So what the clinical academic leads do in the Trust is they look after the research and academic careers of working clinical staff. We have leads for AHPs, for nursing and midwifery, for healthcare science, and for medicine. We call Research Futures as a group. So I saw this job and I thought, I don't want to only do this. So I said when I was offered the job, do you have another good candidate that would like to job share this job with me? And so a vascular scientist, Richard, jumped at the opportunity because he got to keep his clinical role as well. So I do 2 days a week as a clinical academic lead. I do some clinical work as an MRI radiographer. My interest is fecal MRI, and I do research for the rest of the time. And I'm here today. One of our research projects looking at incidental findings in research imaging.
So what are those findings?
So, interestingly, incidental finding is something, so if you volunteer for an MRI study as a healthy volunteer, say we want to look at 100 brains and measure some functional thing in it, come in and finger tap or look at these images. What happens if we happen to notice you have a meningioma on your scan, something like that?
Yeah.
Do you understand when you come for your research scan that no radiologist or radiographer is ever going to look at that scan right? Some psychologist is going to be scanning, or a physicist maybe. They're not trained to detect anything. You sign a form saying, I do understand this will not be reviewed by a radiologist. But secretly, I can really tell I did a lot of research scanning. People volunteers assume that there's nothing on the scan, so it will happen. But so, you're a young person. If you come along for a scan, they find a meningioma, you're going, right, have you bought your house yet? You won't get life insurance, you will get critical illness cover, you may not be able to travel. It changes your whole life if you find something.
Right.
So it's not just a positive thing to find something on the scan. Or also, you may have a scan, something on it, and nobody sees it, and then 3 years later you're diagnosed with something, you go, but I had a brain scan 3 years ago, was it on there? So what do we do about this?
Yeah.
And what do people do? So there was an RCR working party 11 years ago, I think, gathering all the experts in the country. So I was a radiographer representative on that, saying, what are we going to do about research imaging management? Can we come to a consensus? And we published a paper. We manage the incidental findings for Nottingham University in our hospital. And so what they do is that they do the scans. If they see an abnormality, they send it to us and it's a formal report. And then one of our radiologists or their GP contacts the patient and talks them through it. But this varies widely. Some places, like Marsden report, every single research scan gets reported, and that is gold standard. But that's expensive. Some centres don't have a plan. Ethics requires you to have a plan. The ethics, varies from place to place. So it might just be a local university ethics, not necessarily regs. So many places have different policies, and we get approached now by smaller places, like maybe a sports imaging centre to buy an MRI, they're going to scan people's knees, that's what they want to do ahead on it, and they go, would you manage our incidental finding service for us? So when we saw the research booth thing being advertised for UKIO, we thought, why don't we come here and start our survey and ask people what they do with incidental findings management? What do they think should happen? Because the second half of our survey is like, what would be best practice in your head? What's most important to you? And then we're going to try and come up with a consensus and some guidelines for best practice. And then I want to talk to the health and volunteers in different places and ask them what their understanding is of the process and see what they think, because obviously it matters to them more than it matters to us. So that's our plan.
Is there anything you're worried about from the research?
I mean, I don't want to find out that there's some place scanning in kind of, southern England that just do loads of scans on, say, pregnant people, which we do MRI scans on pregnant people, and there's no plan for if they find a fetal abnormality. That's just ethically really troubling to me. And, this probably happens somewhere. So. And also I'm hoping that somebody will come and say, this is what we do, and I go, this is amazing good practice, and let's try and get everybody doing the same.
Is it your responsibility if you find something unethical to do something?
So no research study is running without ethical approval. So some university or some national ethics committee has approved this. So what I might consider unethical from a patient point of view, they obviously have ethical approval. So I can say my opinion. And I think that if there were some decent national guidelines about how we manage it, that's less likely to happen, which is why we're doing this.
With the patients that you see regularly, what are some of the things that you think they might highlight within this research?
So you mean the healthy volunteers?
Yeah.
The scans? We're lucky that we live in a country with the NHS with free healthcare, which is really good. I know I've worked in America, and I know American researchers, and they have people come in and essentially help tourists, because you might have a diagnosis with very poor health insurance, but if you volunteer for a research scan at major, UCLA or somewhere, and they find something on the scan, are they obligated to look after you after that? So there is a lot of people kind of fishing because they have a little bit, I've got a twinge on my back, and I've volunteered for a back scan.
Yeah.
And that's troubling, because that's not how you should get your diagnosis. Or you get false reassurance, because you might come in and have a brain scan and have some functional imaging, and you think, well, if there's anything on my brain, they'd find it. Necessarily, they don't do diagnostic scans, and that's recognised in the papers. A lot of research imaging is physics-based, experimental. It's not necessarily trying to find, your MS or whatever. Yeah. So I think it's not good for people to be fully reassured, or people to have the impression that if there is anything on the scans, this will be picked up. It's clearly not the case. And what do you think the amount of the chance of finding something incidental, so not related to the research, on a brain scan and not a body scan, what would be your percentage, would you say?
Body scan's probably going to be higher than brain. Brain abnormalities, I don't know, maybe 10%.
Yeah, so something between 1 and 15% of brain scans will have
Love guessing.
And body scans, well, the literature says up to 50% of body scans
really?
will have, and it's finding it might not be life-threatening, it might be interesting.
Yeah.
And the thing about doing research, and I worked as a purely research radiographer for the university, we scan a lot of doctors, physicists, professional people. Once scanned a doctor with a really life-threatening disease that we found.
Yeah.
It was really traumatic, both for him and for the staff managing it. So while it was good for him to find out, it's not an easy start to your day. And the chances are high when you do body scans, clearly. So.
Well, you can go to America and get a 6-monthly full CT scan as part of insurance.
Slightly worrying. So I'm really interested to hear about your role at Nottingham.
Oh yeah, great role.
Largely because I think it's amazing practice, and I would imagine for the healthcare professionals that work there, knowing that they have that as a resource is really valuable.
Yeah, when I decided to do a PhD, I'm a DCR trained, so I didn't have a primary degree. So the leap from DCR to PhD, that's a journey that only a radiographer gets, really. So when I was doing my PhD, you get the usual, people say, oh, you're great, but most people say, oh, you're not. What is the point of that?
Yeah.
For me, working in academia, you have no academic credibility eventually unless you've got a PhD. So for me, it was almost like a personal satisfaction, not necessarily a career move. I really wanted to do it. And I saw the way that my children were doing their GCSEs and A-levels when I started. We all graduated together at the end of lockdown. Before graduations in 6 months, it was amazing. So it was a personal thing, but I didn't know where this was going to go because I had some mentors. We don't have a school for radiography in Nottingham, so there was not an academic career in lectureship open to me. Academic radiology in Nottingham is super supportive and been really good, but I did a PhD in the BRC that's in gastrointestinal, because that's what I did. I was in celiac injury, so I didn't see a career path. And now that we have clinical academic leads in the trust, people come and talk to us at any stage, newly qualified, pre-masters, post-masters, thinking, and they quite often email and say, I was told to come and talk to you, thinking about doing a PhD. So one of the first people I started mentoring 2 years ago when I got into the job was a radiotherapy physicist who had great ideas, and she knew she wanted to further study, small baby, what am I going to do? My manager sort of supported her, doesn't know what to do with me. I'm like, she's now on, just about to start her fully funded, paying her NHS salary, PhD. That's that was a journey that was lovely. It was false starts, apply for things you don't get them. She did the NIHR equivalent of the silver, like the pre-doctoral preparation, which is really helpful. But her project, she found out what she was doing, which is not a goer, so she completely changed her thinking what she was going to do. But all that iterative process of shaping your proposal, finding funding, looking what's out there, everything from the day before, the night before at 8 o'clock at night, doing a practice interview with them before her doctoral interview, well, that's part of the job,
Yeah.
And then now she's saying, my manager's not sure, I'm on a 3-year secondment, how that works with HR. Yeah, we're working on a position statement that in the trust at the moment, a dedicated HR person who's working on how to support managers, releasing people. They'll have funding for the backfill, but it's not that easy. What happens if it's a 2 year, you can't do longer than 2 years secondment, this person's going for 3 years, what are the expectations of the person coming into the secondment, what do we tell them? So us as a clinical academic leads who are working hard to those kind of behind the scenes problems that you don't think about things with your PhD, that'll be great, lovely, but actually there's a lot, and I believe you shouldn't be paying for your own. Some people do self-funding, but the NHS spare money to self-fund or take your own time or take your annual leave, study leave. Our trust, research is our business, is what we say, but we don't have a lot of money. It's just ensuring that our research funds are spent supporting people to get on the right track, to get their funding to do it. So that's our job.
To finish, how important do you think it is for us as radiographers or allied health professionals to advocate for ourselves? So, for example, you introduce yourself as doctor who's done a PhD, but lots of people who we speak to, they never do that. They think, I'm not a medical doctor, or I'm not a surgeon, so I shouldn't do it.
I don't introduce myself to patients as a doctor because I think that's misleading. If people ask me what I do, I say I'm an MRI radiographer. If I'm out with my husband, who's a radiologist, he goes, she's got a PhD. That's not the point of me. I'm very proud of it, but I'm an MRI radiographer. This is what I do. It's my passion. I do love being a radiographer. I speak up as a radiographer. And being in sort of senior leadership roles in the trust as a radiographer is so important. I say I want to apply for this job a day a week. It's only ever been held by a consultant. Is there any reason I can't do it? No. So it would be great to have a radiographer position. So I've been a radiographer qualified when I was 20. I'm a radiographer.
It's in your blood. It's in your blood.
Friends are radiographers. I really like it as a career.
Do you think having clinical academics within the NHS improve patient care?
Absolutely, because we're developing the research and service evaluation. We're keeping people. It's all retention is important as well. So people interested in their job. Somebody I mentor in Nottingham, who was an imaging assistant, then went on, did the apprenticeship, and then qualified as a radiographer. Went to Toronto last weekend to our first international conference presenting on play therapy work. That's something that, everything from me saying, I'll help you find the money, why don't you apply for a quality radiographers overseas, but I'll get you there. You get accepted and we'll get you there. And that's so satisfying. So somebody that I knew from an imaging system presenting internationally and winning the prize, that's the best bit of the job. And it's great for radiographers.
Amazing. And obviously hugely rewarding from a job satisfaction perspective, because I would imagine, just you talking about the support that you offer, I know so many people who get a hurdle and then they go, I can't do this, I haven't got the support, or go to their manager, but their manager maybe doesn't have the knowledge to support them in the right way.
And being knocked back, resilience, we talk about resilience, we went to the doctor's den yesterday, we're looking at the incident of NIHR fellowship, and a flashback to my NIHR interview in Leeds when they just absolutely trashed me and broke me, and I thought I'll never get PhD funding, and then you just pick yourself back up and you find your money somewhere else and you keep going. So I'm very good at supporting people when they're sitting there going, I'm going to have to give up, I don't know what to do. It's just pick yourself up and get it on.
And it isn't always about formalised PhD study, is it? It's audits, service evaluations, starting small and developing your confidence and also working together as a team. You've highlighted perfectly the impact that can have.
And I would say, not everybody wants to be clinical academic, but everybody should be developing their career. So when I was a manager, people wanted to go to a conference, I go, don't go empty-handed. Put it on a poster if you have 100%. Do a presentation with somebody else. Never just turn up. Bring something. As a reviewer, bring something. And even if you learn 2 things at a conference that you can know it's worthwhile. If you want funding, make the effort.
So, did you want to plug where do people need to go?
Yeah, well, have a look at us on Twitter. We really appreciate anybody stopping by to fill out our survey on incidental findings. And even if you don't have that service in your trust, we want to know what you think about and what we should be offering. So come and fill it out. That would be great.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.